Yeah, so as it pertains to procurement specifically, and in different areas that changes or modifications that we're seeing year over year on that front is you know during COVID it was really a three wave attack on supply chains, right? It was COVID, and then it was supply chain constraints, and then it was inflation. All three of those situations and three of those kind of macro influences all gave carte blanche essentially to to suppliers and vendors in the general marketplace to pass along cost increases and to have cost increases get pushed down into their customers, which are the portfolio companies that we work with. And there was a lot less of a concern on the overall cost. There was a lot more of a supplier assurance concern, through 2021 and 2022, or at least the front half of 2022. And, some examples of ways that we're working with folks maybe more so during that time frame was, looking at onshoring or nearshoring relative to importing, back when it was really difficult to get containers in, especially from China on the Western coast. There were a lot of initiatives to seek domestic alternatives, and folks weren't as concerned with the price they were paying because of how elevated the freight costs were, but more so making sure or trying to diversify a little bit in terms of their supplier assurances with nearshore opportunities. And that was what we saw a lot of, through 2021 and the first half of 2022. Back half of 22 and front half here of 2023, that tune has changed, and that's really been focused on clawing back the price increases that were pushed down under those three premises that I mentioned over the last couple years. It creating efficiencies and ultimately savings by way of consolidation of spend and creating that leverage. Creating that leverage now tells a meaningful and compelling story to the general marketplace. Whereas during, coming out of COVID, there were a lot of suppliers that were turning away volume. So, if you were able to go and leverage spend across a platform portfolio company, that might not be incentivizing for a supplier who has more than enough customers to serve and is just focused on serving those customers, not getting any type of market expansion. And that has certainly changed. Now there's an opportunity to capitalize a power position, frankly, with key suppliers across multiple industries and multiple commodities, direct spend categories, transportation categories, indirect spend categories. And that's being held for the first time in years as, those suppliers, they're facing many of the same demand headwinds that are being experienced across the general marketplace. And that's creating an opportunity to make sure that they're correcting their pricing and that we're effectively helping our clients specifically, go and claw back some of these cost increases that they took under the premise of COVID, then supply chain constraints, and then ultimately inflation, and making sure that as the market corrects itself, that pricing corrects itself as well, and then some. So that's really, what we've been seeing in terms of the value creation in the front half of this year.